Welcome to the last part of Critical Moment. At this moment, we have to ask the very man of how he would give the advice to the expat.
Oh, working in Thailand?
Yes,
Okay. Where do I start?
you're an expat. You've been here for 14 years. Come on, you have learned something. Give something back to the society, your expat society.
Well, you know, it's interesting because many expats here who work in bigger companies tend to be here on 2-year, 3-year assignments. And so I think, you know, the Thai culture, everyone would say, is quite one of the most challenging in the world to understand, especially when you're trying to motivate people. When, you know, there's such an easygoing lifestyle and, you know, it's just
Sabai, Thailand.
right? Now, I think one of the key things is how can expats motivate Thais? You know, a question I'm asked, how can we motivate Thais more effectively? One of the things I notice expats tend to do is they tend not to manage people in the way they would do in their own home country. Now, I think this is a bit of a mistake.
Oh, is that right?
I think so.
I thought they were being very adaptable.
Well, I think that's the start, right? So I think, I don't like the word adaptability so much, but I think it's important to be sensitive. But at the same time, I think you've got to be honest.
Right?
And if someone is not meeting a performance target, I think you need to be able to correct the person. And this is a huge issue in Thai society at the moment. You know, the whole thing about the rule of law and people going to, you know, that's happening in politics, this is all about how much can we correct someone. But really, you've got a lot more latitude than you think if you're an expat in Thailand. And I think most Thais actually like being corrected, or they respect being corrected. They find it helpful because that's how we learn. The important thing about when correcting Thais is your intent. Like, are you doing it just to, you know, attack them?
Right.
Then that's not positive. That's punishment.
Right.
Okay. Are you doing it with ego? That is also not positive. Thais generally tend to like character but not ego. But if you're doing it to help them and the organisation move forward, if your intent and you say that's your intent and the energy is such that it's your intent, I think that's really, really helpful, and is something that expats don't do enough. So I think, you know, my one piece of advice in this very short amount of time is you know, do what you would do naturally at home, but just be a bit more sensitive.
So you're a believer in one size fit all?
No, I don't believe that, but one thing it's just a behaviour I've seen among expats is that, you know, that generally when they come to Thailand, the one size fits all that they're using is you've got to be, you can't conflict, right? And I think that's wrong. I'm saying just do what you would do normally. So if in your own country you have 2 different people and you would react to them differently, that's okay. But don't not correct someone for a performance issue if you see that, if that's important to you.
And this is the insight that you have gained from thousands and thousands of people that you have trained in this country.
I think that's one major one, but there are other ones as well. But that's one major one. That expats, I think a lot of managers are really under-managing in Thailand, and it's really creating a lot of disharmony and misery, you know, downstream from those actions. So don't under-manage, don't over-manage. Obviously, you've got to get it about just right. And I think one of the key things is to practice correcting when it's required, because that is also motivating as long as it's not punishment.
And basically, you don't want the expat to downgrade on their quality requirement.
No,
right? Just because you're in different country.
Right. So you shouldn't sacrifice that. Care, then correct. Care and correct. The two have to come together. So as long as you're showing care and you're correcting from that, then I think you know, you're still going to get pushback from anyone. No one. Some people don't like being corrected, but if it's trying to move forward, then I think that's really, really important.
So you're saying that the Thai people are not that bad with English, the way that we probably think that we are?
Oh well, it's very variable, Kun R. You know, I wouldn't like to use the word bad, but definitely it's a challenge here.
Yeah.
But I think. You know, that a number of the groups we train, the level we train at, we make it very easy. So you know, the language isn't so much of an issue. If you get the concepts easy enough. So, for example, if you take Apple, you know, they use icons that are very easy. You easy to understand what that is and click it. So you don't need a long instruction manual or a long lot of text. It's the same with training.
So do you think an expat has to learn Thai?
I think it's helpful. Look, I don't speak much Thai. I can speak Thai and I can speak Lao as well, but I won't go there.
Yes, yes.
So I think learning a language really helps because you get into words unlock mentalities. Okay, so it's very, very helpful to learn what the word is. For example, most people don't know that in the Matichon dictionary, the Thai language has about 30,000 words. Okay, English has 1 million.
You see that? So
Now,
Thai language should be easy for you to capture.
Well, you'd have thought so, but in fact, what really happens is that the 1 million words, there's one that it says exactly what you mean. But with Thai, there's like, you know, one word might mean 5 different things. So you've then got to work out the context and you've got to put a load of language around it and hope someone actually understands it.
That's right, that's right.
So a word is like a tool. If you can pick out the exact tool, like English does have a very wide range of tools. You can use the exact tool, you can say exactly what you're trying to say. With Thai, with a slightly more limited vocabulary, it means that the tools aren't there to communicate certain concepts. So, you know, that's also a challenge, I think.
Yeah, that's very time consuming, isn't it? Studying a language. How about advising the Thai people having to work with expats?
Well, I think, you know, this is a hot topic at the moment in Thailand.
That's
you know,
right. Because now we are approaching AEC and there will be so many expats coming from this region and Western, etc. So we are here and we have to be open.
Yes, I think so, and I really hope the government allows the free moving of labour, because I think this is a great opportunity for Thais to broaden their skills and to broaden their experiences as well, and to get future leaders in Thailand, because Thailand needs leaders, as every country does.
That's right.
But you know, coming back to the question of the land, of helping, of what Thais can do, really I think one of the things is to be prepared to make mistakes. There's a terrible fear of making mistakes.
That's right. I don't want to lose my face. Khai na.
Well, Kana, it's the fear of losing face actually that is the problem in Thailand. You know, once the losing face,
na, very important in Thailand.
It's fascinating, this concept of face, because this is the number one challenge for me. That I think that it's the fear of losing face. There's way too much fear in Thai society. So for a society that believes in freedom and sunuk, I think there's an enormous amount of fear. And it especially manifests itself when working with foreigners. You know, you see someone who's a foreigner, you know, panic, right? So actually, make mistakes on the Thai side. Another little word of advice, as well as correct, foreigners need to understand that, you know, they need to celebrate mistakes, okay, and get the lesson out. So not to give scold on mistakes, but to encourage that. So one is not fear making mistakes. You know, experiment, try hard. But I also think, you know, not just Thais working with expats, but I see Thais with each other. Thais can be very hard on each other. Very hard on each other.
In which way?
Well,
do we say mean things to each other in front of their face?
Maybe not in front of their face, but, you know, when gossiping, for example.
And what's so mean about that?
Well, that's a good question, right? This is what creates the fear, because someone's going to gossip about you. So you've got to make sure your behaviour is within a certain rigid sort of, you know, I'm within the societal norms. And I think, you know, Thais collaborating with each other, there's a lot that needs to be done here. You know, because Thais, I think, need to be much more forgiving of each other when they make mistakes, and not also just to look at face. You know, we've got to go behind the mask in this culture more, to look at the person's soul, look at their capabilities, look at their talents. You know, not enough. Thailand has got some fantastic strengths here in work. For example, in advertising, they regularly come in the top 3 in the Cannes Advertising Awards.
Right,
you know,
because we have very good creativity.
Right, but is it being maximised? I don't think so. So I think there's a real challenge here for, you know, when someone has strengths in Thailand, when someone has talents, are Thais in their own society letting them use them, or are they pushing them into a hierarchical role where they have to stick to that role and they can't use their talents? Right? This is where I think a number one challenge between Thais, among Thais, and it has to be worked out, because if it doesn't, the whole people, the whole country, the economy will suffer, because Thailand will not be able to make the most of its opportunities in the emotional economy, in the knowledge economy. Okay?
Right. And do you think by adapting themselves the way that you have suggested, don't fear of losing face, don't be afraid of the mistakes, etc. Is that applicable to working in the AEC, because you want the free flow of talents within the AEC economy?
Yes, I think it's very important, because people have to be brave, right? The idea about AEC is you've got Indonesia coming online now, Malaysia, all of these countries, Laos, I mean, there's all of them are very competitive. And so if Thailand as a whole wants to be able to thrive, not just survive, Thailand's very good at surviving. But there's going to be a point where the surviving will no longer be able to continue without it going downward.
Right.
It needs to find where it can thrive. And the way it can do so is by getting people to push out the boundaries, discovering the talents, their own talents and those of their colleagues, and helping each other thrive. Not just keep the status quo, but actually to move forward. And I think that's the challenge that's happening. It's not a political challenge, it's a society challenge. It needs to happen on a society level, and that's why I'd like to see Thailand, moving forward on that. Thais working with each other and bringing their talents out, so that it's a mutual win situation.
No need to say more. Thrive for mutual win situation. You have learned a lot from this guy, as well as I have. Thank you so much, Kunik.
Thank you, Kunal. Thank you so much, Kap.
And for you, what is your critical moment? See you next time.